Hello, and welcome to the show. I hope everyone is comfortably plugged in. Your ship has descended to broadcast level, and you remember to take your blue pills.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I know I have. So I mentioned in the last video that if anyone wanted me to talk about the Matrix, then to let me know, because I have a lot to say on the topic, and one person did. And there's a new trailer for the upcoming soft reboot of the trilogy, Matrix Resurrection. So the timing was perfect. Now, I've been a massive fan of the Matrix trilogy since it came out. I was only 8 at the time, but my mum very kindly sat me down and made me watch it because she knew that it would blow my mind.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
And was exactly the kind of thing that I should be into. Well, ignore the fact that she showed an 8 or 9-year-old movie with that much violence. But she knew that I had a keen interest in philosophy at the time, and probably felt that it was important for me to be a part of the cultural phenomena that was the Matrix. She also made sure that I read books such as The Alchemist, The Celestine Prophecy, a book called Sophie's World, all things to do with metaphysics of consciousness. So it's really not as weird as it sounds to have shown me that movie as soon as it was out on DVD.
Trying to free your mind, Neo.
And she was right. I watched those movies over and over again. I actually have a scar on my wrist where my brother kicked me for trying to watch it yet again when he didn't want to. Now, the Matrix trilogy is an odd one, in that there are lots of very heady themes. Talks of purpose, cause and effect, determinism, free will.
There's no escaping reason, no denying purpose. One universality is the only real truth. Causality.
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
And it doesn't really ever take a definitive stance on any of them. It's that very postmodernist approach of just presenting you with ideas to let you decide for yourself.
I expect just what I've always expected, for you to make up your own damn mind.
Maybe with a quiet nudge, and as such, the trilogy means a lot of different things to different people. Most notably of which being paradoxically problematic are the ideas of enlightenment, seeing the truth hidden in plain sight, realizing that the systems of control that exist, and using those systems against itself. Great if you're an anarcho-communist revolutionary, not so great if you're a lonely man who can't get a girlfriend and thinks that feminism is a conspiracy to turn all men into soy boy beta cucks. I wonder where they got that idea from. The idea of a pill that can show you the truth,
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland.
has been co-opted by the right to create conspiracies that empower misogynists, transphobes, and racists over the last decade. And well, while we'll definitely go into a lot more detail about these things in future essays, suffice to say, it's only a system of control if it benefits capitalism. So Barclays Bank and Disney Inc. changing their company logos to a rainbow during Pride Month, yeah, that's a system of control. Trans rights and critical race theory, no, those work against capitalism. They are not a system of control. So you can imagine the horror of many a Redditor when the Wachowskis came out and said that the Matrix trilogy was actually a trans allegory.
I just thought, you were a guy.
Most guys do.
Basically every trans person just kind of went, oh yeah, of course, that's why I like it so much. Well, I think my favorite Reddit comments I saw on the subject said something along the lines of, I don't care if the Wachowskis say now that it was a trans allegory, that's not what was meant at the time, so it isn't one. Like, Okay, bro, tell both yourself and the actual author what the film made by two trans women means. There have been plenty of videos that explore the trans themes of the original Matrix trilogy. I can personally recommend Curio's The Matrix sequels are good, actually. They make an interesting points about Neo and Trinity's relationship being clearly lesbian, and once you see it, you can't really unsee it. One thing I think they missed though, which I personally think is what makes the sequels good actually, is that The Matrix is about self-actualization. That the only thing that can really determine who you are and the things that you can do is yourself. And we can see this throughout the movie. Neo can't beat Morpheus in the dojo fight until he opens his mind up to the abilities that he has.
Don't think you are. Know you are.
He doesn't make the first jump because he has self-doubt. He starts to win the fight against Agent Smith once he begins to believe, once he knows who he is, Neo.
My name is Neo.
And this is something that's very true of trans people. Many trans people suffer without really knowing what is wrong with them because they aren't aware of what being trans is. They aren't aware of what's possible to do as far as transition is concerned until they meet people with shared experiences or learn about being transgender and realize that that is something they can do. Abigail from PhilosophyTube makes the excellent point in her censorship video. If it wasn't for Section 28 when educating around LGBT issues was banned in schools, then perhaps she wouldn't have waited until her late 30s to begin transitioning. And for myself, I spent most of my life wishing I could be a girl, but not thinking I was able to because I didn't think that I was trans. The experiences of trans people I had heard of in the media, knowing from a young age.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it.
It didn't align with my experience. And so I unfortunately felt like I wasn't one of them. It wasn't until I met a trans person who told me that wanting to be a girl isn't a very cis thing to want to be. And that's when I started to realize that my desires were just as valid as everyone else. Now, one thing that I feel really changes how the sequels fit into the wider narrative, but ties into these thoughts of self-actualization, that the prophecy of the One is itself a form of control. Not all that stuff the architect said about returning to the source.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix.
I mean, that was as well. I mean the existence of the One itself. By creating the narrative that there will be only one, the machines ensure that there will in fact be only one. What makes Neo special?
You see, he's just a man.
Why is he able to do the things that he can do, like flying and stopping bullets in midair? Because he believes. The Oracle is definitely not innocent in this. She told Morpheus that he would find the One, and told Trinity that she would fall in love with the One. And so when Morpheus finds someone who just happens to use a name that's an anagram of One, he believes that he's done it. And when Trinity falls in love with Neo, she tells him as such, which allows him to truly accept who he must be.
So you see, you can't be dead.
And thus unlocks the powers of the One. But more than that, by telling Morpheus and Trinity that they would find and fall in love with the One, she is telling both of them that they're not the One, that anyone not found by Morpheus isn't the One, and that anyone Trinity doesn't fall in love with, they aren't the one either.
You see an agent, you do what we do. Run.
Thus ensuring that they do not believe that they can do the things that the One is supposed to do. So they never try. And this again is true of the trans experience and mine. Thinking that I wasn't actually trans, despite really wanting to be a girl and not transitioning until much later as a result. I didn't know that I could. I didn't know that I was allowed. Now, one thing that I do want to say about The Matrix being a trans allegory is, so how does being trans work in this universe? It's commonly known trivia that the character Switch was supposed to change genders between The Matrix and the real world. But what isn't known is whether they were non-binary and comfortable with both, or if one of them was their correct gender and the other wasn't.
Not like this. Not like this.
Now, Morpheus tells Neo that inside the Matrix, he is projecting his digital ideal self.
Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image.
How he sees himself. So if you're trans, wouldn't that mean that inside the Matrix, you're always projecting your correct gender? Like, surely there wouldn't be any trans people in the Matrix because everyone would just be projecting how they feel on the inside. In which case, when they get woken up, does that mean that they're being woken up into the wrong body? Isn't that a bit fucked up? Like, you would basically be making someone trans by giving them gender dysphoria they otherwise wouldn't have experienced. I don't think the Wachowskis have thought this through. Now, of course, one does have to ask the question, how do the people inside the Matrix know what they look like?
It's Latin. Means know thyself.
Maybe it's the case that when you're plugged in, the machines make regular scans of what you look like. Or maybe they read your DNA, or something to see what you should look like. In which case, someone who was trans might wake up in the same wrong body in the real world as they had in the Matrix. But then when they plug back in, maybe they get to live inside their ideal self as their correct gender. I mean, that would be nice. I doubt that they have particularly good provisions for making HRT in Zion. Or the third possibility is that the machines are massive jerks and they just randomly decide to make people trans. The gender dysphoria could be what makes someone aware of the Matrix. That every single person who took the red pill, they took it because they were trans. I mean, they do all seem to be programmers and coders. Maybe that's why I'm trans, because out there in the real world, I have a female body, but inside the Matrix, I was given this body as a joke. We make up what, 1% of the population? I mean, that would line up with the rate of red pills you get in the films.
As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as...
Anyway, back to the films.
Back to the Matrix.
I think one of the biggest criticisms people have about the sequels is the question, how does Neo have superpowers outside of the Matrix? Is the real world just another layer of the Matrix? Is it matrices all the way down? It's kind of crucial. I mean, considering that almost all of the third movie occurs outside of the Matrix. Not only can Neo blow up machines with his mind, but when he, well, spoilers for an 18-year-old movie, when he gets blinded by Agent Smith in the real world, he can see the machines.
It's not over.
So how can he do this? Well, it's never really explained in the movies, but I think I have an explanation that, if you keep it in mind, will hopefully make everything make a lot more sense. Neo and everyone else that's been woken up is a cyborg. They are cybernetically enhanced humans.
And standing there, facing the pure, horrifying precision, I came to realize the obviousness of the truth.
Augmented by the machines to work with a digital interface. And throughout the movie, we're clued in to the fact that the machine world works over radio signals. Or, to put it another way, Wi-Fi. Morpheus talks about how they need to fly the ships at broadcast level in order to broadcast their pirate signal to plug into the Matrix. And we repeatedly see the Sentinels communicating with each other over wireless signals. So it's not too far out there to think that Neo could become aware of these signals.
Come on.
Something's different.
What?
I can feel them.
Giving him the ability to both see them and control them. It certainly would explain how he was able to jack into the Matrix without being plugged in, as he is connecting to that broadcast frequency of the Matrix. Why is it that only he can do this? Well, once again, it's self-actualization. What did the Oracle tell him?
The power of the One extends beyond this world. It reaches from here all the way back to where it came from.
Just like how he didn't know he could fly before he could fly. He could always fly. He just needed to realize that it was possible. Now, obviously, none of this is explained in the movie, but I think it's at least hinted at, and it fits with these themes of self-actualization. So next time you watch them, keep this in mind and see if believing that this is the case makes it all a bit more sensical, maybe a bit more enjoyable. Now, when it comes to the trailer for Matrix Resurrection, what can we surmise about the plot of this movie? A lot of it is still wrapped in mystery. The basic premise seems to be that after Neo sacrificed himself to defeat Agent Smith and create the truce between the machines and the humans, that he was reinserted into the Matrix. Possibly similar to how Cypher wished to be reinserted, as someone important, like an actor. We see a shot of the original Matrix being played on a projector, signaling that possibly in this new Matrix, the film The Matrix is real, where Neo is played by one Thomas Anderson. Except he's not happy. He potentially has everything a person could want: success, fame, riches, but deep down there's something still wrong. Something at the back of his mind niggling at him, making him question himself. He sees a therapist, he takes medication, but still something's not right. He looks in the mirror and he's not sure what he sees. Sometimes he sees someone else. Who is that person? Well, basically any trans person who's transitioned later in life recognizes all of these things. I know personally, I began to explore my gender identity at a younger age. When I was 23, I very nearly came out and transitioned, but I didn't. In the end, the idea of transitioning was too much for me, and I pushed all those feelings deep down inside me. But it didn't make them go away. It didn't make me feel better. I would spend the following 5 years trying everything that I could to be happy. I went to therapy, I took antidepressants, I got a good job, I was promoted, I was finally making a success of myself, but I still could not be happy. Every time I thought that I had fixed something about my life, I would find another layer of something wrong. At 27, I'd gained quite a bit of weight through stress eating and using antidepressants. I remember looking in the mirror and hating what I saw. I stopped looking after myself. I stopped looking at myself. My hair looked like crap. I let my facial hair grow out, and my fashion sense was terrible. I was still determined to feel good about myself though, to make a change. I worked hard and I lost weight. I lost 25 kilograms in 6 months. And I also started a photography course at my local college, all in that desperate hope to try and feel good about myself. The day I hit my goal weight, I remember I looked in the mirror, possibly for the first time in a long time. I hated what I saw even more. I realized I was starting to age. And I realized what I would age into, an old man. And that's when I knew something had to change. Those scenes with the mirror resonate with me so much because it's exactly what I used to do. I even made a photography project for college about these very ideas, about how I could no longer see myself in the mirror, no matter what. My face is obscured in this picture because that's what it felt like something was in the way of what I knew I should look like. So yeah, if I had to guess, I would say that this is an experience shared by Lana Wachowski. And while the original Matrix is littered with references to transitioning throughout, that this movie will be more explicitly about her actual transition. The one that came after she became a world-renowned success as a writer and a director, but knew that something still wasn't quite right. Now, something interesting to add is that this does seem to be a new version of the Matrix, as in the computer simulation. The Matrix we know was in a perpetual 1999, while this one feels much more modern, a bit more idyllic actually, possibly thanks to the influence of Sati. But it would also be a different version of the Matrix as the one that was seen in the MMORPG The Matrix Online, which as far as anyone is concerned right now, is canon to the overall Matrix story. In that game, there was a character called Sarah Edmonds, which was heavily hinted at being a female reincarnation of Neo, as her name was an anagram of Thomas Anderson. It was never really confirmed, but if that is true, then it means that Neo might actually be a trans woman. But in this new reboot of The Matrix, pun intended, he has been given his old male body back, which could be what inevitably leads Neo to becoming aware of the Matrix's existence once again, and attempts to wake up. And hey, even if none of that is actually in the film, and it doesn't matter because the films are so subjective, you can read whatever you want into them, so technically I'm always right no matter what. Right, I hope you, I guess, enjoyed this video. I don't know if it's useful. Maybe if you were aware that The Matrix is a trans allegory, but you don't know much about what it's like to be trans, then maybe this video can give you some insights and maybe a new perspective through which to see these movies. And I hope you're as excited to see the new film as I am. I do just want to say sorry about the lack of activity on the channel lately. Something you might not know about me is I actually suffer from long COVID after catching COVID-19 back in November. And so there's lots of days when I'm basically bedridden for days at a time, which makes working on new videos a little difficult. The next video on medical misogyny is very much on its way, and the script is in the last few stages of development. If you're a patron, then look out for that because we will be uploading the script in advance as we do with all videos. And especially thank you to our patrons who have been patient with us as we get things up and running. If you would like to support us and what we do during these early days, you can find a PayPal link for one-off donations and a link to our Patreon page down below. If this video was useful, then please do like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.